next lobe of the hemisphere is the temporal lobe, this one, bounded above by the posterior lateral sulcus, here behind by this imaginary line extending from the pre-occipital notch to paracoccipital sulcus. So this is the temporal lobe. Here two important sulci are there, one superior, one inferior. This is the posterior lateral sulcus, but this transverse sulcus is called superior temporal sulcus and this one inferior temporal sulcus. So gyri will be superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus. These gyri extend anteriorly and merge together to form the temporal pole here, this one. And in the superior temporal gyrus, there are so many transverse gyrus, 2 to 3 transverse gyrus are there in the superior temporal gyrus. Next come to the occipital pole and occipital lobe. This is occipital pole and this is occipital lobe. Occipital lobe, you see, this is behind this line. This line means, if I show you this side, this is paracoccipital sulcus and below is the preoccipital notch. Both these points are about 5 cm in front of the occipital pole. If you draw a line on this side and on this side also, so behind this line is the occipital lobe. In the occipital lobe, there are sulci and gyri both on this surface and on this surface. I will discuss this surface separately and there I will show you all the sulci and gyri on the medial surface. Let us see the sulci gyri on the lateral surface here. Here you see, this is one important sulci. This one is called lunate sulcus, like the moon. This one, lunate sulcus, and this sulcus may join or may not join with this sulcus which is coming from the medial side called calcarine sulcus. Beside this, you may get other sulcus also called the lateral occipital sulcus. This lateral occipital sulcus, it divides this gyrus into superior occipital gyrus and inferior occipital gyrus here. And the most important sulcus, already you know, that is paracoccipital sulcus, and it is prominent in this hemisphere. This is paracoccipital sulcus and it comes on this side also. So here the gyrus around this paracoccipital sulcus called the paracoccipital gyrus, this one here. So altogether there are very few gyrus and sulcus on the lateral surface of the occipital lobe, that is lunate sulcus, lateral occipital sulcus, superior and inferior occipital gyrus, and paracoccipital gyrus, paracoccipital sulcus. Beside this, sometimes you may get the transverse occipital sulcus. Here lateral, here is transverse. This sulcus may join with the posteriorly with this imaginary line and even up to the posterior end of the lateral sulcus. This is, you know, this is the tentorial surface of the inferior surface or tentorial part of the inferior surface. That I discussed, that one I already discussed. This is the orbital part on the inferior surface of the frontal lobe, and this tentorial part, it is on the inferior surface of the temporal and occipital lobe. Here you will get two main important sulci. One is this one called occipito-temporal sulcus and another sulcus medially called collateral sulcus. And you will get three gyrus. This one is the lateral occipito-temporal gyrus. This is medial occipito-temporal gyrus and this is parahippocampal gyrus, this one. And parahippocampal gyrus, when you trace it anteriorly here, it takes a infolding and from the uncus. So uncus is the anterior end of the parahippocampal gyrus here. Behind it, here is the paracoccipital sulcus, which divides this temporal lobe from the occipital lobe.